And hello, ladies and gentlemen, and everything in between. We are perfectly mediocre.
Yeah.
Are we going to settle on that? Let's settle on that. Let's hear it goes. Perfectly mediocre. So this is Ben. He cannot speak.
Apparently, I'm illiterate and
exactly
and half mute.
I'm here today with Benjamin Harper. My name is Calum Randy Hauer. That's not how you pronounce it, but I want to be mysterious online. So
you do the music for Toy Story.
We got a friend in me. So this is our first episode, and that's why this intro has been absolutely awful. But to give you guys a bit of insight, because aside from my mum, I'm gonna hope that someone else is listening up there who doesn't know me.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
Yeah, God, I hope so. I just want to be famous. Let's do a quickie introduction. Ben, tell me about yourself.
There's not much really to say.
I'm a blank slate.
Yeah, about as bland as they come. Hence the name Perfectly Mediocre. I'm not a film student. You are.
I studied the film.
I'm an amateur film enthusiast is kind of the way I would say it. But we kind of know each other. We've known each other a while now. Mm-hmm. Met through friends. And
I'd say 2 years I've known you.
Yeah, around about. And we kind of like both decided that we like film and stuff like that. I personally, like I say, aren't a film student, but just an enthusiast. I'm a nerd.
See, Ben's really underplaying his film knowledge. I studied film for 3 years, and then when I met Ben, I was convinced this dude studied film because his love for it was impeccable. But yeah, in terms of my love for film, I've just been watching movies since I was a kid. I watched a lot of movies that I shouldn't have watched as a kid. Not porn. I more like Terminator and Aliens and all that kind of stuff, and Seven and I think Seven. Yeah, truly, and I think we both might have probably had that similar experience.
Yeah, definitely. I always loved film. Always loved all kinds of film. When I was quite young, I got into kind of horror and stuff, which is where a lot of my kind of film passion for film comes from. Mm-hmm. I feel like horror is just excellent.
And you guys can expect in future episodes to be a lot of horror based.
A lot of horror stuff. A lot of other stuff
as well,
which we will get to today. Mm-hmm. Real quick though, Calum, give us like 3 of your favorite films. Doesn't have to be your top favorite, but just 3 of your favorite films.
As we've discussed before, you've got the ones that everybody loves, like your Shawshanks, your Pulp Fictions, and stuff like that.
Back to the Future, man.
Yeah, Jurassic Park for me. But the ones that the one that I call like the individual, the ones that personally, I feel that I've seen and not many people else have seen. Leon the Professional by Luc Besson, The Crow, which is adapted from a graphic novel, and Scott Pilgrim versus the World. Yeah,
I remember seeing that in cinema.
I did not. I saw it on DVD and I loved it.
Bloody excellent.
And yourself?
Myself, jeez, it is one of those things. A lot of my ones are like kind of classics.
He's pulled out Scroll, people. It's gonna be a long time.
One of my favorite films is John Carpenter's The Thing.
Excellent choice.
Which, yeah, just such an excellent film.
Honestly, I could say I think I'm gonna say all your favorites are my favorites as well. The list is just too long,
Close, yeah. Jeez, you could probably name my favorites more. I really like things like The Reanimator, a lot of body horror, 80s horror stuff. If we were going non-horror,
there's none.
there's too many. I think that's the thing. Really enjoyed Three Billboards. I wouldn't say it's one of my favorite films.
You've gone for a more recent one.
That kind of like vein of film, that kind of like not black comedy, but like awkward dark humor, crossed with
the Coen brothers.
Coen brothers, yeah. I really like Fargo.
Yeah, Fargo is terrific.
Still kind of horror, but more like Haunted House in Space. Alien is one of my favorite films.
Classic. Alien and Aliens.
Bloody love Alien. Controversial. I think the first one's better. Then third one. I don't know. What would you say a third one is? What films do I blag on about?
Oh, God, we literally talk. Sam Raimi's Spider-Man. The entire trilogy counts as the third one.
Quite. Yeah. That is a good shout.
We have long, because we love film so much. We have long lists.
Yeah, it's going to be something, which is why I think we're doing this kind of thing. Well, we're breaking it down day by day and episode by episode, topic by topic, film by film.
But today,
Yeah, segue. Excellent segue.
See, this is I'm the guy with the plan.
That
Today,
was so smooth.
thank you so much. Today we are, because we want to kind of jump on that zeitgeist. We want to get our finger right in there. We're going to be talking about the Joker. More importantly, we're going to be comparing Heath Ledger's performance to Joaquin Phoenix's performance. And you know what? I think mainly this will be a discussion on the films themselves. So we
will touch on the characters
more towards the end.
But, it will be kind of like almost like a half review of the two films.
Yeah.
And then a discussion on the comparison. Probably like favorites as well would be a good kind of shout. Talking about which one we prefer.
Yeah.
Probably controversial. I've had a lot of thoughts on the two of those.
It's interesting. Like when it came out, there's a lot of hype for the new Joker. And now the reviews have come out, and I feel very, very differently than I first watched it.
Yes, the dust has settled for a lot of people, and I think there's a clear divide. Well, it's a clear divide with a bit of smoke between it.
Yeah,
I was about that.
And you know what? Let's just jump into our first question.
Grand.
Thoughts on the films alone. Let's start with the one that came out first. We obviously have The Dark Knight, which came out in 2008, directed by the impeccable
wonderful
Christopher
Nolan.
Yeah, the man can do no wrong. Even the movies that I haven't seen that he's done, pretty sure I'm gonna love them either way.
Yeah, Christopher Nolan's he's an all rounder.
He honestly, I have friends who don't like some of his movies. They're not my friends anymore.
Couldn't name a single film that I don't like.
I can see why people who aren't into film can find some of his movies a bit tedious.
Yes,
I think if you deconstruct them, there's just so much there, which we've got a lot of notes on The Dark Knight.
So yeah, we kind of like a little bit of an overview on kind of our perspective on the films. We've both watched Dark Knight a lot. I certainly have.
You definitely have, and we both watched it recently.
And we both watched it the other day together with a bit of a discussion in it, which will kind of come out today.
Yeah. If you hear any paper rustling, that is me flicking through my notes.
I can barely read my notes. Awful handwriting.
You've just done scribbles.
Hieroglyphics. As for the 2019 Joker, the Todd Phillips one, we've both seen it twice. We saw it once together and once separately. And there's been a clear change in kind of opinions and stuff.
And I think what's good about ours, that one, is we can discuss the audience reaction as well.
Yes.
And if you can remember, maybe I did watch it in cinema. I can't remember the audience reaction to The Dark Knight.
Didn't see it in the cinema.
So it's just been rewatching after.
I didn't have anyone to go with.
Wait, might get copyrighted.
My reference is literally going to school and seeing people talk about it and then be like, you need to watch it, and then me finally watching it. So quite an interesting kind of like really bad approach to it.
All right, let's start with as we literally said a minute ago, Chris Nolan's Dark Knight. To be honest, there's not much to say because it's just so good.
Yes. We watched it. Excellent film. I've probably seen it. I couldn't count the amount of times I've seen it. It's about 2 hours long, roughly.
Yeah, it's a long boy. I think a lot of his movies are, to be fair.
Yeah, but it's done well. And
so well.
Like, we sat there and watched it the other day. Like, we were running out of time. We were like, let's put on a film. And then we sat and watched the entirety of The Dark Knight. And it's just excellent. It's one of the best Gothams as well.
Okay.
In my opinion.
All right. Interesting.
But it is basically New York. And there is definitely that clear change between Batman Begins, also done by Christopher Nolan in 2005, I believe. Where it's a lot more gothic and cartoony.
See, I told you he sounds like a fucking film star. Interesting point about the Gotham, because for me, I'm much more of that. It looks like I much prefer the Gotham in Batman Begins, but to focus on the Dark Knight, because it's a genre movie, and people be like, it's a superhero movie, but to be honest, it's really not. It's such a solid film.
Same with the new Joker, but we'll get to that later.
Yeah.
But it's neither of them are particularly superhero films. They're kind of action dramas with a superhero in it. Not in the case of the Todd Phillips one.
Yeah. But Chris Nolan set out to do the most realistic version of Batman, or at least one that works while still being respectful.
Personally, I find that's why Gotham works in The Dark Knight. Like, it fits the tone of the film.
Yeah.
It is weird that Gotham completely changes and all the like smoke and stuff disappears between the two, between Batman Begins and The Dark Knight. But I think it was a right call, and I think with the buzz he got from Batman Begins and the kind of like, you know, people noticing it, I think he had the opportunity to have that creative freedom. Similarly to the new It film, which we'll talk about at some point, but I definitely have thoughts on that. But yeah, so
I'd say, and to kind of like tie it in, the film itself is great. The music, the acting, the story, the look. But another reason why this film did so well and is such a great film is because of Heath Ledger's performance as the Joker. Because Jesus Christ, he knocked it out of the park, and it is such a shame what happened after the film.
Like the sad passing of Heath Ledger is what Caleb's kind of referencing. I believe he won an Oscar for it as well.
I can't pronounce the word. Humously.
Like after his sad passing, he received an Oscar
for that performance,
which is bittersweet in my opinion.
Yeah, very.
It's a shame that he couldn't still be around to kind of like receive that award and get the kind of recognition that he deserved. But yeah,
it elevates the movie. Already a great film. I don't think a lot of people kind of, when they talk about it, I feel that they base it around the performance.
Yeah, they definitely do.
Which is fair, because it is a great performance, but there is so much more to The Dark Knight than the performance. It all elevates it.
Yeah.
On the other hand, we have 2019, Todd Phillips' Joker. Not the Joker, just Joker.
Just Joker. And we were discussing it the other day when we first saw the film.
I think we should discuss our initial reaction first.
Yes.
We really, really enjoyed it.
I really enjoyed it.
We were quite... I think you were more... Are you quite taken aback?
I was taken back. I found it quite a hard to watch film, particularly certain scenes. You know, it had a lot more emphasis on the mental health aspect, which was, you know, a big part of the marketing for this film is, he's a different Joker. It's a different origin. There's no reliance on Batman for him to be a character. But
unlike previous Batman movies, especially ones that concern the Joker, it's always been about the Batman facing an adversary. Here we have a standalone origin movie to a character who famously does not really like to have an origin, or at least it was made popular for him not to have an origin.
And the funny thing with that is...
the funny thing... You're a Joker, you, aren't you?
Is we were talking... Because when we saw it the first time, I said to you, there's not a DC thing at the beginning. And I made a note when I saw it the second time to keep an eye out. And I still could not see any reference to DC at the beginning. I think possibly in the full credits at the end, where it's, you know, like a black screen and the scrolling white
it will say,
credits. I'm sure it says like...
We got this character from DC.
Yeah, created by Bob Kane. Bob Kane did Batman. I don't know if he did Joker.
God knows who invented the Joker. Nobody knows who invented the Joker. That's why he's so mysterious and cool.
He's an idea.
An idea. We'll talk about that Joker another day.
But yeah, it really did kind of separate itself from the Batman line to an extent, while still doing subtle hints. I say subtle hints. Bloody Bruce Wayne was in the film.
I think the... Subtle is not the word I'd use to describe this movie. I
don't know. Ham-fisted, like it's complete opposite.
It has a story and it tells it. And for me, that's it. It's just about a guy who's beaten down by society.
Yep.
And the movie doesn't try to hide this. It is very similar to Martin Scorsese's Taxi Driver, which... If you're a film student, you've probably been forced to watch that movie. If you've not, it's an excellent film.
Definitely watch it.
And I feel that when you do,
Robert De Niro's in that as well, actually.
Yeah. Robert De Niro's in that. Yeah, and obviously King of Comedy, which is also Scorsese.
Yeah,
and that also had De Niro. In there as well.
So, it separates itself to a comfortable extent, I would say, from the DC kind of like lineage.
Okay. Yeah.
But there are bits that are a bit kind of like
Yeah.
black and white. Going back, kind of like my initial kind of like response to it, I really enjoyed it. I loved it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, to be fair, that's not to say the second time I saw it I didn't.
No,
Like,
you just notice more things, right?
I noticed more things because I was having less of a kind of like critical view on the film, and
Mm-hmm.
I think as filmmaking goes, it's done pretty well. Obviously, being a film student, you can kind of like talk more on.
Let me just push up my glasses.
You can kind of talk more on the kind of like production, I'm sure, and the kind of like shots and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I found the cinematography pretty good in it.
Yeah.
There wasn't too heavy a reliance on CG as well, which for me
It works.
meant a lot.
Yeah. Actually, both, and going back to The Dark Knight, both of them rarely rely on CGI.
Christopher Nolan's quite a practical lad.
Yeah.
And
which it always helps when you're trying to make a movie that's trying to reflect realism.
realistic, yeah. The one thing we kind of said about Dark Knight the other day
the other goddamn day
is the bit where he goes to somewhere in Asia. Is it China? He's infiltrating that big tower block.
He has to get Mr. Lau in order to get the entire crime syndicate.
Yeah, and that bit where he like flies out the window in the Christopher Nolan in The Dark Knight is probably the main bit of CGI. I'm like, oh, dude,
it's
like,
a little bit shaky.
It's not great.
But luckily, it's in the night, it's in the dark, so it's fine.
Yeah.
But going back to what you were saying about like Todd Phillips and this kind of sense of realism, the main thing I think most people are getting from this movie is the performance.
Yeah.
Joaquin Phoenix is amazing.
He's superb
in this role.
Yeah.
Same thing with Heath Ledger. The only thing about this movie, in my humble opinion, is that this movie is just the performance. From a writing standpoint, I think it's beautifully directed, like the way it looks.
Yeah.
The soundtrack. Oh my god, we were trying to learn this lady's name. We've got it up in another tab over here, so I'm going to mispronounce anyway. But it is Hilda Guanatadir. I'm pronouncing it quickly. But her soundtrack is amazing.
Absolutely killer soundtrack.
Yeah. Where this movie falls short, I think, is in the writing. I don't think it's trying to say anything, or if it is trying to say something, it gets muddled up the more you analyze it.
The more you kind of see the film. Funnily enough, when we left the cinema, when we both saw it the first time, I said to you, if you imagine like getting from A to B, but in 2 hours, and A to B are like literally a step apart.
Oh yeah.
But it takes a 2 hour kind of like lengthy journey. So once you break down, like you say, the kind of writing and stuff, it does certainly seem a bit more
hollow is the word that I'd use.
Yeah.
I think, if you like this movie, more power to you. And I definitely think if you view this movie as just kind of watching this guy go through these events, and it hits. I think because we discussed the trailer.
Which I hadn't seen.
Yeah.
So it was weird watching the final trailer after I'd seen the film, because I was like,
this is
like,
what's being advertised.
I was like, my God, I would have completely ruined the film for myself if I had seen this, which partially could have been the reason that I liked it so much the first time I saw it.
Yeah.
Is because I had no point of reference other than, he's got a
guy.
cool red suit. I like his yellow waistcoat.
That's correct, yeah.
But yeah, as a film, it was far less like
happy.
Fantastical was the word I was going to use.
The trailer, both, because we watched both of them. They're good trailers in my opinion, in terms of like just on their own.
Yeah, excellent trailers.
But the attitude and the mood they convey is, this guy's gonna become the Joker. He's dancing downstairs, and then the first thing you see in this movie is a mentally ill person
smoking and
getting the crap. I
was thinking more the bit where he's talking to like a
therapist, I believe, or a counselor.
Yeah, it's like a like one of those people you check in with when you're on parole, or
because he's just been released from
Arkham State Hospital. Is at this point a nice little
AKA Arkham Asylum. Yeah.
But yeah, it's certainly, I don't know if romanticized is kind of like the right word for the trailers.
I actually think that'd be a perfect way to describe it.
Because the trailers are a lot more
I'd say classic Joker, comic book Joker.
Pizzazzy as well.
Yeah.
He's got charisma, he's got confidence, he's he's not like, you can tell he's not like completely okay,
Yeah.
but it's more like fun, jokey, traditional comic book joke,
Yeah.
like you said.
While the movie itself is the more harrowing part of a guy getting basically society just
he is
beating him down.
an absolute broken shell of a man, and it really shows. I think he jeez, yeah. I mean, we were saying about the bit where at the beginning of the film where he's talking to the caseworker. That's what she is. She's like, oh, you know, recently been released. You don't want to go back. Do you know why you were in there? Do you remember this, that, the other? And then it literally like snapshots to a big white room, and he's just headbutting
smashing
glass.
that door down with his head.
And well, do we want to go into spoilers now? Do we announce that?
That, you know what? I did not even think about that.
We haven't really touched on anything yet, but there's an interesting point.
Have we actually spoiled the movie yet?
Oh,
that's amazing by me. I'm surprised I didn't open with the ending. So let's put a spoiler warning here.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen Joker,
Todd Phillips one,
go watch it.
Go watch it. It is a very divisive, interesting, intriguing film that can be picked apart till the crows come home.
Honestly,
it is.
I think because the amount of I wanted to speak to everyone about this to see their kind of view on it, because for me the reason I think we have to talk about its reception. It's doing amazingly well.
Yeah.
Box office fantastic. It got standing ovation when it came out.
Yeah.
Reviews now are a bit more mixed.
Yeah, I think there's a difference between press reviews and personal YouTuber reviews, content creator reviews. There's certainly like a bit more freedom in what they kind of say. A lot of kind of like press reviews, you know, like Empire, stuff like that, they look at kind of like a film as a film. They'll be like, oh, this is deep, this is meaningful, and that's great, and for the most part I agree with it. I mean, we were saying Joker is already like 12th on IMDb's like top 100
250
films,
which you know
is insane.
It's not the be and end all, but it is a great it does show that a lot of people are dinging this movie and are voting it quite high.
Yeah, it really speaks for the film and kind of says what, you know, is going on, how it's working. And
I don't think everyone should view this. This is more personal. Whenever a movie, whatever the movie is, I always like to see how people react to it, how most audiences, because most audiences aren't like us. So we like to pick apart movies. We've seen a lot of films, and therefore, people don't consider the same things that we do, and they shouldn't. You know, everyone
just
is allowed
enjoy a film, man.
Yeah, honestly, film studies ruined me. Like now, every time I see a movie, I'm like, but look at that transition. Actually, to be honest, I enjoy most movies, but then you ask more questions in your head, and that's where that's where it becomes critical. But with this movie, it is resonating with people, and I'm interested into seeing what is the main factor, and I think loads of people were expecting a certain kind of movie. People love the Joker or have heard of the Joker. He's a pop icon. Not music, a pop. Oh, I don't know. Maybe he did do a record.
Music later.
But yeah, I think because you said that your brother like kind of came home was a bit like. Loads of my friends were taken aback.
Yeah, a lot of people. My brother is one that to note. He saw the film, he came in, he sat down, he was like, I just need to be with my thoughts. He was like, I don't know how I feel about it yet, but he said, I know I loved it. And I think that's like partially kind of like one of the kind of like thoughts and feelings on how divisive this film is, and how, because we sat in the cinema, speaking of audience kind of interaction, we sat in the cinema, me and you were pretty like stoned through most of it. Kind of in the film.
Well, I got told to shut up.
Yeah,
and I made a promise. I was like, I'm not going to talk during this movie.
and he did really well.
Thank you.
But a lot of people were laughing, and other people were silent.
That was it. It was a intense moment was happening, I would say, and then
Well, I think it's good that we could mention spoilers now.
There were a couple of intense moments, but I think there were moments where I think the director, or at least the film wanted you to
Certainly
be.
had an intention to make it more
serious, to make you be a bit like, oh God, what's this guy doing?
Yeah.
But then the other half of the audience were laughing at it. And I'm not angry. I find that fascinating.
I find it interesting, different people's wavelengths and different people's kind of like takes on certain things.
Because I think there is an element of, with us, it's like, oh man, this mentally ill person
Like
is in
struggling.
trouble. Yeah, like he's running away from the situation.
Yeah.
And then the other half of the audience is like, look at this guy fucking running, and he's got his clown boots on and stuff. And
Yeah.
it's weird what hits people in certain moments.
Yeah, and I there's the scene with the fridge and stuff like that.
Good point. Yeah.
Should we talk about it?
Well, we've said spoiler alert, so let's do it.
We've done a spoiler, so proper spoiler alert.
Yeah.
Now. Like,
go watch the movie.
Yeah, full on. Watch,
Jacob, I know you're listening to this.
Yeah, watch the
Jacob.
film Sirs and Misses and everything else.
Yeah, in between and outside the box.
Yep,
Yeah.
everyone. It will be
Even you,
interesting to hear
Jacob.
people. Even you, Jacob, you're being picked on now. Running character in the podcast.
This is where a random guy called Jacob is listening to this podcast and he's like, what the? What are these guys?
Yeah, so the fridge scene, there's it's kind of like a transition scene between two scenes. There's a bit where Joaquin Phoenix's Joker gets or Arthur Fleck, I think they call him,
which is a bit funny. Affleck.
Affleck.
Hey.
Batman. Batfleck.
Not anymore.
So he gets off the phone. We didn't take notes, so you're gonna have to like trust us.
So I'm trying to remember.
He gets off the phone with the detectives. They say, "We're trying to reach you. If you could like call us back, don't leave town." You know, like standard like detective stuff. And he's all like topless, like stretching out. He seems visibly stretched. There's a cool like blue tone over the room. And
he spends. Sorry, side note. He spends a lot of this movie in his underwear.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all I want to say. Continue.
And he gets off the phone. He looks stressed. He slowly starts emptying the fridge,
knocking everything out.
Well, this is the funny thing. He takes out bread. He takes out potatoes, stuff like that. Then he takes out a shelf, and then he, again, tiny little bit of acting, but I loved it. Was he goes to take out the top shelf, which is smaller. He pulls it half out, then realizes it's still he can fit in it, and he pushes it back in, gets in the fridge, and closes himself in it. And we were talking to people about it, and they were like, "Oh, it's so weird. I don't get why he got in a fridge." And like me and you both read it in the same kind of way of like he's isolating himself.
Mm-hmm.
He's like that's the closest to escape he's gonna get.
Yeah,
at this current point.
He was already cut off from society, but I believe this is a real low point for his character. Like I can't remember what happened in the scene previous, but it was something bad.
Yeah,
and then this was just like
it might
him just
be
trapped in his own mind.
Just after he's gone to the lady's flat. It might be because
after the reveal.
Yeah, I'm certain that happens. Again, we don't want to go into like full spoilers, but there will be scene mentions and stuff like that. But I think he's gone into the lady's flat. That scene's happened. Then he leaves all solemn. There's like dramatic music playing. Again, excellent soundtrack.
Yeah.
And then the phone call, and then maybe the next scene is.
So the pickup point. So there is a lull, and I want to say it's exactly as you said. And then the scene after that is he gets the phone call.
He's on his bed smoking, and he gets the phone call
to be allowed to be on the show.
The Murray.
We're gonna get onto Murray soon.
Awesome shot for me as well. Personally, that scene where he is smoking in bed. You can see through the door frame, but it's really narrow angle because the phone is kind of like left and center of the screen, but out of focus. And you've got this really narrow passage of
frame within a frame, baby.
Yeah, and you can see him in the background smoking, and then the phone calls, and you kind of see him like sit up a little bit, and obviously walk to the phone. But a small thing, but I really liked how that was shot.
Like I said, for a guy who did the Hangover movies, which I can't really comment on how well shot they are. I can barely remember them. The first one was all right from memory, but like this movie has a good aesthetic, man. Like the way his shots are. He's always there's one where he's writing in his book, and I believe it's the bit where it's I hope my death makes more sense than my life.
Yeah, sense spelt with like money, CENTS.
Yeah,
it's a punny.
Very punny. he's mentally ill. Don't take the mick out of him. He's right in the corner of the shot, and you've got like a view of the kitchen. You know, it's not center. It's off center. It's off kilter.
There's some really cool shots like that. I like a lot of the panning shots. There's not many of them, but I'm pretty sure. I want to say it's the bit where he's like he's writing notes in the comedy show or something.
Yeah.
And of course there's the shots where he's walking through the comedy show as he's about to go on, and the camera follows him and stuff like that, which I really like. Excellent use of color throughout this film as well.
Yeah.
The blue from the fridge. I like colors.
Well,
we kind of get into this a lot.
Colors have different meanings, but for me, blue can make things seem clean, but they can also make things seem quite dire and depressing.
And cold. Yeah.
Yeah. So classic example, Terminator 2, to do with like robots, it's quite serious.
Pretty much the entire film.
Yeah, it's got that blue kind of tint to it. While this one, it just gives this cold atmosphere to everything.
Certainly in that scene. There's other ones. It's quite interesting. It's one of the kind of like DC kind of films where the city itself doesn't have a particular color. Because we were talking about the city, weren't we?
Yeah, I see. In argument against The Dark Knight, this Gotham has so much character, and I think it actually fills in a lot of gaps that the script doesn't kind of.
It really picks up for like plot points that you're just like meh. I would agree. The character of Gotham, the Gotham feels like a character in this.
Yeah,
it is such a
grimy,
disgusting entity.
Yeah,
which is feeding into
and it
kind of like how the film plays out and stuff like that.
And literally, what I was about to say, it almost makes up for the fact for what happens in the movie in terms of like the riots and the chaos, because this place is just it's awful,
absolute pigsty.
Yeah, you've got all the trash building up. You've got the attack of the mega rats, and then the mega cats.
Jeez,
I wanted to see Arthur Fleck fight a mega rat. Like, that's all I wanted.
Did you see the huge rats?
I did. You told me not to speak to you. There's a bit of a rat right across the screen. I was like, look at it.
And it's the size of a cat.
Yeah.
It does feed into it a lot, and it explains a lot of the story, and you feel for the characters that aren't even characters in it. Like, the riots and stuff like that have like more weight behind them.
Did you personally feel for anyone else in this movie? Because
that's a good point.
One of my big points, because I've got a lot of big points to make about this movie. I feel that I'm railing against it, but what I really want to do is I want to bring into focus what the movie plays with. Yeah. Because
vent a little.
Yeah. You know what? Let me just say what I really think the film is based on.
Yeah, go for it.
It's based on the performance, and it ties into what you said. The whole dancing bit. The Joker is constantly dancing in this movie. And I've had a couple of people say, but why? And like, when I first watched it, I was a bit like, transformation, metamorphosis, physicality. Because as he goes through the movie, he gets better at it. And at the end, he's like smooth. It's grandiose.
It comes with confidence and stuff like that for me as well. By the end of the film, he's not a smart gentleman, but he's certainly more in himself, and he's more...
I'm gonna write that down. He's not a smart gentleman.
Not a smart gentleman. Quote.
Yeah. Because that might come up later.
He definitely in our comparison. He really leans into it towards the end, and there's a scene where 20 minutes before the end, he's going down the stairs, dancing to
the big part of the trailers, Rock and Roll Part 2.
Yep, Rock and Roll Part 2 by Gary Glitter. Yep.
Wow. All right, let's. It's a sick song. It's a sick riff. It's used in a lot of sporting kind of events. I know it from the KLF's Doctor in the TARDIS. What I quite liked is it's quite a weird. What's the word? I'm bad with my music. I don't want to say discord. Disjunct, disruptive kind of noise. You know what I mean?
It's like a fuzzy, I believe it's electric guitar kind of sound, playing the riff, and it's memorable.
Yeah.
I certainly left the cinema and was like, oh, that song, and then upon remembering what the song was, for kind of like people who aren't in the know how, Gary Glitter is a,
as we say in England, a nonce.
controversial.
Yeah. He had his rise, he had his fame, and then he's now in prison, or he was in prison for like 16 years or something like that.
But it's a controversial song choice. I don't know if people would argue it's ironic or...
Well, I was curious as to whether there was a meaning behind that song.
Yeah.
That's why they used it. But through research, I don't think there is.
Even if they researched the guy who sung the song, I don't know. It's an American film, I believe. So whether they looked into it that much, I don't know.
But funnily enough, it does the music, and then it goes into the soundtrack by Hilda.
Yeah.
And her soundtrack is this disjunct, scrapey kind of noises.
No idea how she does that.
No idea, but for me, it was a parallel. They'd almost found a song that has like a tune, and then when you heard hers, you're like, oh, this is the orchestral bit, and you're like, oh, they actually do kind of sound similar.
Not like a motif or anything like that, but
it worked into that kind of like transition.
Certainly, I think it's Konako. It's not pizzicato or whatever, but whatever they use on the strings is like a scraping, borderline industrial sounding.
No, good word. Yeah,
orchestral. It's harrowing, but it's a very good sound. It's the kind of soundtrack that when I left the cinema, I was like, I'm going to listen to this.
I listened to it on the way home in the rain, and I felt like the Joker. Sadly, there were no stairs to dance on. I just looked like a clown.
going off feeling like the Joker, kind of segueing a little bit.
Ooh, here we go.
Because I feel like we've said a lot of things. For the record, we both really enjoy this film. It's a good film. It's received differently the second time around, certainly. Mm-hmm. And I think there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. I would watch it again. I'm hopefully going to see it a third time in the cinema, just so I can take it in again on a third viewing and just kind of view it. But there were certainly bits that we were like, this is weird.
I feel, to kind of do a blanket statement, I feel that the movie is bringing up loads of points, but it doesn't do anything with them. What is it saying about society? You know, what is it saying about people with mental illnesses? Because I'm like, when I first watched the movie, I'm like, well, this movie, because obviously a lot of people thought it was going to be about incels. But no, this guy is not an incel. He's just mentally ill.
Would you care to define that for people? Who don't
so incel is involuntary celibate, aka neckbeards, which a lot of people feel that a lot of these kind of men are going to go watch this movie, and therefore be empowered by it, and therefore cause their own violence, which is
definitely didn't feel like that to me.
It's BS.
There's a lot of controversy over the kind of violence in this. Personally, I didn't really respond too bad to it. It didn't.
We're a bit desensitized though.
Yeah, we are.
Even then, I think the issue is it's because it's violence depicted realistically. When you see a guy get beat up in the street, you really see a guy getting beat up in the street.
There's not an excess of blood. There's not an excess of over the top, like with the Jack Nicholson one, for example, where he pulls out a revolver and it's got like a 2-foot long barrel. There's nothing like that. It's
not funny. It's not exploitative.
I wouldn't particularly say no. It's very real, very down to earth,
and I think that's why it's hit people.
And there's and there's an underlying theme of kind of like anarchy, thoughts on the class system. A very big plot point is kind of based off the class system. Thomas Wayne and his kind of influence.
But then what's the point of that? It just says rich people are bad? Is that what it's trying to say?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's a really interesting film. We're not going to kind of like cram too much down because it's such a new film. It's good to experience it yourselves and not going with like a crappy view of a film. It is an excellent film, very divisive, and like I said, I would watch it again.
Excellent film based off performance, in my opinion.
It's certainly propped up by the performance. But going back, segueing like...
Right, we're done. We're done.
So you said kind of like pretending to be the Joker in the rain. Oh, that was sad.
I just am the Joker. After watching I watched that movie and I was like, oh, it's just my life story.
So we haven't really talked too much about Heath Ledger, but we are going to be kind of briefly comparing.
I think we've said our pieces on both movies.
Yeah.
Now let's talk.
Starting point though, the laughs. Which one do you prefer?
Maybe. Well, to answer your question with another question, what does the Joker mean to you? Because before we can talk about these guys' Jokers, we've got to talk about what we think the Joker is.
Yeah,
I'm
trying to. Well, what was your first? Because what the Joker means to me is usually kind of like your first exposure to it.
My history with Batman. So I was a little boy when I first heard of Batman. Growing up, I loved the Tim Burton 1989 one.
Yeah. Jack Nicholson, obviously.
Jack Nicholson. Then, as a kid, the animated series I would have watched would have been The Batman, which I believe is...
just to clarify, he watched the later one.
It was like 2004 or something like that.
Something like that.
It was called The Batman. Its opening was done by Sting from
awesome one. It was like
YouTube. No copyright, please. It was so bad they couldn't possibly do it. And that was really cool. It had a cool art style.
Yeah.
I am familiar with the one that you watched, which I'll let you talk about.
So I watched the, I think it was 90s. It might have been the tail end of the 80s going into the 90s, but I watched the 90s animated series, which is my first exposure. Then I watched the, I believe it's called The New Adventures of Batman, which was like a second...
It was like a follow-up, right?
It was almost like a reboot. It had slightly different villains, ever so slightly different art style, but you still had, I'm pretty sure it was Kevin Conroy doing the Batman in both, who is an excellent voice actor.
He is the Batman for many people.
Iconic.
Yeah.
And more iconic for me was...
Yeah. I'm nodding my head. Mark Hamill is the Joker.
Yeah. Mark Hamill was the Joker, which was... he did that voice for like 20 odd years. He's still doing it every so often. Yeah. So...
He is the Joker.
He is the Joker for me. I love the art style of the animated series Joker as well, with that like green sheen in his hair and the darkness. Also introduced Harley Quinn.
Yeah, started off in the animated TV show.
Wasn't a thing before that.
Not a comic book character.
That series for me was really, really impactful in terms of like a darker kind of like cartoon.
Yeah.
Not to go too much into it because I'm sure we'll talk about it at a later date, but that Joker was my first exposure. And then I watched Batman Beyond, which I don't believe you've seen either.
Batman Beyond is the future one.
Yeah.
Where he doesn't have a cape. And it's not Bruce Wayne.
No, it's Terry McGinnis.
Yeah.
Good
drink.
I want to say Kevin Conroy still voices Bruce Wayne in that.
Older,
so for
Bruce
me,
Wayne.
those three separate series culminate and that's just like an excellent run of Bruce Wayne's kind of like over arc, which he has. I think there was like 4 series of the original animated series or something like that. But you got like 20 arcs across the 3 different shows.
Yeah.
Also, same Batman, I believe, was half segued into like Justice League and stuff like that. But I never really watched that.
Yeah. Ooh, I totally forgot the big one. I read like Killing Joke. I got given the Killing Joke when I was quite young.
I like Killing Joke.
The comic book.
Yeah.
Truly fantastic. And this is from Alan Moore, who is known for kind of like taking comic book characters and then doing them in a really serious and interesting way.
Yeah.
So he did a run of Swamp Thing, which basically became what Swamp Thing is. Killing Joke. I want to say he did like a Superman one as well. And obviously he's known for doing Watchmen, V for Vendetta. Very, very complex ideas. But also... The Killing Joke is the basis for most of the Joker's
origins as well. Yeah. Very
influential
on less so the Heath Ledger one in the new ones, but
I would say there is the multiple choice thing, man.
But like less so. I mean, Joaquin Phoenix was a bit more tongue in cheek, a bit more ham-fisted with the like, oh, he was a comedian, and then he becomes the Joker.
Yeah,
which
they take that element
from the Killing Joke because he's a comedian in that, isn't he?
So yeah, the Killing Joke, it's like half going between what Batman's doing. It's mainly focusing on what the Joker's doing.
Yeah,
he's in a circus and he's trying to break Jim. He has like these flashbacks to when he was with his pregnant wife. They're poor.
Yeah,
he's trying to be a stand-up comedian, but it's just not working. And then he ends up joining like the Red Hood gang.
Yeah.
And they basically trick him because he used to work at Ace Chemicals.
Yeah.
And it basically results in him being knocked into the acid. Yeah. After one very bad day. So he loses his wife and he's like, well, I've got to, I can't do it. And they force him to do it.
Yeah.
And then when they get there, the police are already there, or someone's informed them. So they all get shot at. and it's all about how this one bad day broke this man, you know, which is kind of what Joker's about. It's about society breaking down this guy.
I would say
it's not really one bad day. It's more like a bunch of really bad events.
It's not purely adapted from The Killing Joke, but there's certainly...
There's a lot more in there.
The new Joker film takes inspiration from pretty much every iteration of the Joker, both origins in comics and films, with the exception of maybe Jared Leto. That's certainly a different story. But yeah, so I read The Killing Joke, and I thought it was interesting to see how that kind of character traits get kind of like passed on and off in both Heath Ledger's Joker and Joaquin Phoenix's. One of my personal favorite iterations of the Joker, which I've said before, is Dark Knight Returns.
John DiMaggio.
No, that's Under the Red Hood.
Damn it.
I'm not too sure who voiced him in Dark Knight Returns, but it was based off a Frank Miller comic, I believe, in which Batman is older. I think he's like 50 odd, and he comes back, and there's like loads of things. Excellent comic, excellent animated kind of like version of it as well, if you ever get a chance to watch it. But the Joker in that is quite cool, calm, and collected, but also
white
aged.
suit near the end, right?
White suit. He goes on a talk show. He I believe he kills the entire studio in that.
He
In
definitely kills like the entire audience
without doing like a kill count. But I just like that, and I think definitely Joaquin Phoenix channeled that a bit, whether it was through his own kind of like personal interest or
just the script was just trying to reference it.
The Todd Phillips or whoever wrote the script kind of like was like, oh, talk show, that's such an excellent place to have a
freak out,
slightly unhinged person. So yeah, the Joker means a lot to me. He's been a character I've known about him since I was a kid from early exposure. And different iterations. I can't say there's particularly a single version of him that I completely hate. There's certainly ones I like less. He knows which one he is. But yeah, he's a symbol of kind of like, he's a symbol of everything. He's overly violent at times, thinking about is it Death in the Family and Killing Joke, to be fair. You know, the murder of Jason Todd. Which the new bloody Suicide Squad film decided to say was Harley Quinn, which I never got. You know, shooting Barbara Gordon. There's also some really hard scenes in kind of Killing Joke as well, just kind of like with the torture and kind of like
there's a lot of implications given to what he kind of did to Barbara Gordon. For me, the character is based, actually no, the character has become something of lunacy and chaos. You know, in The Dark Knight, he literally says he's an agent of chaos. In a deleted scene from Suicide Squad, he says that he's an idea. But originally, the inspiration for the character comes from this black and white film called The Man Who Laughs. Which is just, I really want to watch it because I've seen parts of it.
If you do end up doing pictures for this, it would be awesome for you to put a picture up, because it's
terrifying. Like and especially since it looks so old. But it's the character has a permanent smile after an accident, or maybe he's born with it. But
maybe he's Maybelline.
I'm curious as to why, when they did Batman, they were like, oh, we'll just do this kind of like clown kind of character, because it's not the first thing you think of when you think of a guy dressed as a bat. But I'm guessing this is just in the era of where you could just do whatever you wanted.
And I can't remember the exact years, but there's been different kind of like versions of the Joker, like through the Silver, Gold, and Bronze Age. So there have been ones that one of them's more of a prankster, kind of like thinking along like Cesar Romero style, like he does like jokes. He's still like being evil, but he's doing like jokey kind of things. There's ones where he's just completely unhinged, which I can't remember what the comic is. It's the one where he like redoes his face, you know.
I think he cuts off his own face, or someone else, but he puts it back on.
He loses his face, breaks into like Gotham PD or something to steal it back, and then kind of like says, "Oh, I was showing you that underneath I'm the same," or whatever. So there's that kind of iteration. There's the crime boss kind of like one.
Bit of a thug.
There's also one where he's got a massive dragon tattoo on his back. I believe the comic's just called The Joker, but I can't remember the exact name. But there's loads of different iterations, and that's, for me, is awesome that they can just change him, because he is partially an idea.
Yeah, and it's one of the reasons I like him and also hate him because of the attitude towards him is this guy's a crazy person. Let's see what we can do.
Yeah. What hijinks can he get up to this week?
Exactly. But there are certain things that are a staple, which he has to be crazy. He has to laugh. The look of his, the pale skin, the smile, the hair. But that's why I quite like The Dark Knight. It took the clean Joker that we know who wears the suits and turned him into this grimy kind of version of him.
Yeah, another cool thing for me is with Heath Ledger's Joker, he has scars. It's never really specified in, not to my knowledge, in any of the other ones, whether he is scarred, just smiling, whether he is like, a lot of them it's like, oh, he fell in the chemicals and he's permanently got a smile, like Jack Napier in the 1989 one.
His one's, so that one's a bit of a weird one. It's a batarang is thrown at him.
Yeah.
The glass scrapes his face.
Yeah.
Then when he comes out of the acid, he goes to get plastic surgery, and the surgeon basically said like,
"This is all I can do."
Yeah, and there are some where it's like he just has a smile.
Yeah.
I think more recently the kind of thing is like he somehow has a Chelsea smile. I think especially after Heath Ledger's one, a lot of the artwork you can see he has his normal mouth and then he has the scars.
Yeah, which is good. I liked it solely personally in the Dark Knight kind of thing because it was unique, it was different. We hadn't seen any live action iterations of the Joker where it was like a physical it's not deformed, like he'd been maimed, there was some kind of like injury or scar,
an accident occurred. What is it? We do not know. Which is one of the best parts of that movie, the changing, which is only like he only does it twice. In my head I like he did it loads of times.
I know, we sat there the other day and I wrote down like scars and we literally we counted like 2 things, and then he goes to say it a third time, doesn't he? And something happens.
And then Batman hits him with the batarangs. I really wish he'd scarred his face even more. Tie his mouth open.
Cool. So
we've kind of defined what we feel about the Joker.
Yeah, definitely. How would you compare the two? Okay, again, blanket statement. Which one's your favorite?
We're purely basing it on the character. Not the movie now.
Not the films.
We're purely basing it off. I think so this is part performance, part the writing, the direct, like the costume and everything. Everything that culminated into what it is. Fundamentally, Heath Ledger's.
Yep.
They're both fantastic performances.
Yep.
But when I think of this new Joker, he's just not intelligent enough to commit any of the things which the Joker should end up doing, whether it be Cesar Ramirez or Jack Nicholson's elaborate kind of displays of jokey stuff, or Heath Ledger's I'm gonna set fire to a fire truck, I'm gonna pull up in a truck with a rocket, RPG. Those things are grandiose. They're planned, which we should talk about in a minute.
We will go into.
While Arthur Fleck, not to be mean, he's a bit of an idiot. He just does things,
Wrong one.
Do things.
I think Arthur Fleck is Joaquin Phoenix's Joker is a lot more confused.
Sexually.
Sure. He's struggling with. He's clogging along. He's doing his stuff.
He's struggling with everything, man.
Yeah.
How can he possibly fight
relationships?
Anyone
Fighting his build. Like, I think there's a bit where his mum says, or Penny Fleck says, "Oh, you're getting so skinny. You need to eat." And he's like, "Oh, I'll eat later," or he doesn't say anything or something. But he's not articulated. He's not smart. He gets more confident towards the end.
He becomes articulated, but he's not smart. Like when he actually does the final speech, he actually does. He doesn't sound and act the same way as he was, because obviously he's transformed.
He's got a very young, innocent kind of like way he talks. He sounds like high pitched voice. He's struggling. Like you can tell he's struggling as much as I'm trying to struggle to say this sentence.
I'm getting worried here, ladies and gentlemen.
He's really like confused and dumbfounded by a lot in the film until the end when he sits down well, I would say probably until where he gets off the train from being, chased by the detectives.
I'd say because he obviously he's not in full get up, but when him and what's the character's name? Oh, I was about to say Murray. The guy that he stabs with the scissors. Murray. The guy that he stabs with the scissors and the dwarf character.
Yeah, the guy who gives him the gun.
Yeah.
I can't remember his name.
Yeah. He's because when he talks, he's exhibiting it, but then he completes his transformation when he's got the makeup and he's going down the stairs.
Yeah, and then
he's no longer going uphill and struggling.
Yeah,
he's finally accepted himself.
And certainly on the bit where the guy with the glasses comes into the changing room and is
what's his face? He's a famous actor. He's in Glow. He's only in it for like 2 minutes. God damn it!
Yeah,
but Murray comes in.
The producer or whoever he is, and he introduces Murray to him, and the guy is literally like, I really don't think this is a good idea, and Murray's like, no, like it'll be cool.
He's not political.
Yeah,
but is he?
Well, and he turns around and it's in the trailer. Joaquin Phoenix is like, oh, and Murray, can you do this one thing for me? And he's like, sure. And he's like, oh,
when you introduce me, can you introduce me as Joker?
And he says,
Murray.
Murray. And for me,
and Robert De Niro does the
yeah, I don't see why not.
We're doing the squinty eyes, side mouth thing, and the hands. Yeah.
But that
talking
bit,
to me.
That bit is
talking to me, Joker.
He's a lot more kind of like confident in himself. He's emerged from the
seedy underbelly of Gotham,
the evil cocoon. And then he sits down. He goes in. He does his dance when he comes out. He kisses the doctor lady. He sits down. He's very cool, calm, and collected for the most part until it kind of.
He seems
switches.
Cool, calm, and collected, and then when he starts speaking, you get reminded.
Yeah.
And then people are just awful.
Oh, just awful.
It's like I feel like I'm doing an impression of.
It's like they said to him, "Can you pretend to be someone who's pretending to care?"
Yeah.
But like ham-fisted and like young. I've said ham-fisted so many times.
Yeah.
This.
Well, because the thing is, the thing that got me, and it's really occurred to me now. It's not who he really is because
there are bits where he's talking, he's fine.
Well, because when he actually it's only when he gets angry.
Yeah.
That's where he reveals himself, and at the very end of the movie, when you see him back in the Arkham, he's back to that kind of normal,
confident.
Well, because he's putting on a voice. He feels like he's putting on a character, and I was like, oh, so has he transformed? But then obviously when he loses his shit, and do you get what you're gonna do? That's the real him right there.
Yeah, and even afterwards, the after. So the bit we're referring to is there's in my opinion, the film should have finished when he's like, "Can you introduce me as Joker?"
Ooh,
I would have liked that, and then they still could have cut to.
There are a couple moments where I think you could have ended
could have been recut. It could have
bit.
cut to the white room again at the end, and they could have been like, "Why'd you do it?" And they could have left that ambiguous, which I think would have been an interesting way to do it.
I like that.
But I still like the last 10-15 minutes of the film.
Yeah.
He says, "Can you introduce me as Joker?" And then they go out, have a conversation. It turns a little bit wobbly. He says, "Will you give us some material?" He admits to killing the 3 Wall Street guys.
And then he does his speech.
He gives a speech.
And he says the word. He says society.
Yep. Which puts a little seed in everyone's head watching.
Yeah.
Following this, he turns, shoots Murray. Interestingly, everyone's freaking out when he gets shot. He stands up. I think he hesitates a bit, and then he shoots him again.
Yeah.
And he does a dance, and I think he sits back down or he walks up to the camera.
Yeah, so it's kind of funny. He kind of like... What's really good is that the doctor lady's still there, cowering next to the guy, and they haven't moved. And then he grabs the camera. And I noticed this on the second watch. It pulls out and it shows you multiple screens, obviously all the news people, and you see the police take him down, which I totally missed.
He gets tackled. Do you not see that?
Yeah, I missed it the first time I watched it. It's so funny.
Going off that's kind of towards the end of the film. There's a outro kind of shots with like music playing and stuff where.
So he's back in the asylum. He's talking to another care worker.
Yeah. And
he goes, I thought something funny. And then it shows a shot of Bruce Wayne and his dead parents, which we've seen a million times now.
Pearls don't break like that, for the record.
There you go. Yeah.
I know probably people say this all the time.
Fun fact: did you know
If they're expensive pearls and they're real and whatever, they'll be separately threaded. So if you pull them, only one or two will come off. You'd have to give it like a proper tug. They'd fall in a chain. But side point.
So what you're trying to say is Thomas Wayne has been a cheap.
He's
git
a cheapskate. He's got
through
plastic pearls.
all the movies and TV shows.
Yeah. So if you're looking to make a Batman thing, they're fancy pearls.
Have Joe Chill hold blood splattered pearls.
Yeah,
that's what
definitely.
I'd do if I made a Batman movie.
So one thing I do want to say, kind of like about the Joker film, is the ambiguity throughout it, and the kind of like, you said you kind of read it black and white. You said you don't feel like there's too much more to it.
No, when you have a movie where it could be, you could argue it's a plot twist or some parts aren't real. Yeah. You have to debate or say, is there any validation? Do you get anything out of it if it is?
Yeah.
For me personally, if this entire movie is fake, there's not much point to it. So I personally think it all happened, but it doesn't matter. It's too up to interpretation, this film.
Yeah. One thing I do want to slide in is a bit of an us theory. Ooh. So, noticing bits through the film, there's a few key split scenes, transition scenes, little bits in between where certain things happen. Now, the beginning of the film we kind of already went over. There's a bit where she says, the caseworker says, do you want to go back? Do you remember why you were in there? Whatever. He headbutts a wall. There's a scene where he's in a phone booth and he headbutts glass.
And smashes it, yeah. Yep.
Similarly, at the end of the film, when he's, I can't remember what song's playing. It's a Frank Sinatra song. And he's walking down a white corridor. He's got blood on his feet, although the first left step doesn't have blood on it. So I don't know what happened there. Because then it has blood on it suddenly.
Look at that attention to detail.
The footprints. Jesus. Yeah, there's one footprint that's missing. I don't get it. Maybe he half steps. He goes down the end of the corridor. He dances. Same dance he was doing earlier on in the actual film in Gotham, and then he gets tackled by staff.
So that the staff starts chasing him to do the Scooby Doo thing, where he goes through one. And then he cut the other side.
And he gets tackled much like the cops tackle him. So there's loads of little bits like that. I don't know if that was on purpose or what.
No, it's because he can't run fast and he always gets caught.
He always gets caught. But I thought it was interesting how there were like similar scenes both when he's institutionalized and...
So you're saying it could be a running motif to show that he's still in that room?
It could be argued that was...
Which is fine.
Which would explain... to interject. Would also explain the caseworker outside, because... she's just talking to him outside, but he's actually still in the white room. Interesting fact as well. After Murray gets shot. I hate how he says that.
Yeah.
But after Murray gets shot and Joker does get tackled by the police and arrested, a song plays while he's in the cop car. We were discussing this briefly.
Ben was discussing this. You've been waiting the entire podcast to say this point. Yeah. So it's actually all that he's got written down.
Yeah, it just says green.
Go for it.
So he's in the cop car. The police are like berating him, saying like, "Oh, look what you've done, and are you happy?" or something like that. And he says like, "Yeah, sure, whatever." God, I'd be such an apathetic Joker. I guess.
You auditioned and you tried your hardest, didn't you? I just did not get the part.
They only cast me in Suicide Squad. But yeah, so he's in the car and quite a fun song, fun in sounding, in tone. White Room by Cream, which came out in, I believe, 1968. It was like studio recorded, released as a UK single in 1969.
69.
White Room, the song is about kind of like depression, hopelessness, but it's set in like a lonely apartment. By the end of the film, he's in an empty apartment. He's offed his mum and
Jesus.
Well, yeah, there's stuff with the love interest, which we kind of briefly spoke about, but there's stuff with that. He is on his own. He's isolated himself by the end of the film. / society's kicked him. The other thing could kind of do with the song is White Room. It's a white room.
Yes, it is literally a white room.
So when he's institutionalized, he's in a big white room. I don't know what they do with the shot, whether they like satirize it or over polarize or whatever, but it's like a bright white room.
Yeah.
Like borderline,
Heavenly,
like
almost.
ethereal, like heavenly.
Especially when he walks out at the end, when he's walking through the halls.
Yeah, it's perfect. With his bloody footprints ruining it, which is
he's
interesting.
In his happy place, he's back in Arkham. Hey.
Yeah. So I just thought that was an interesting thing. They picked White Room. We've seen him in a white room at the beginning. We've seen him in a white room at the end. It is quite a fun, boppy song with, the connotations through the lyrics are quite sad, which I think fits with the tone of the film, fits with the tone of the trailer.
It's the transformation, and I think it's that aesthetic of like he's finally the Joker that you guys all might know and love,
and a lot of people ate that up.
Yeah. Which fair enough.
Basically, if you're going to Comic-Con this year, get ready for
so many Arthur Flecks.
So many Arthur Flecks. I mean, we could put money on it.
Yeah,
I would say
I'm already dressed up like him. You guys can't see it, but
I would say Harley Quinn from Birds of Prey, with the gold coat thing. I'm going to say Arthur Fleck, and my third one.
Ooh,
what do you think?
I'm gonna go with Joaquin Phoenix in his underwear.
Yep,
that's the one.
I reckon that. So
that's just gonna be me.
Yeah,
that's
me. But I think it's going to be the new Harley Quinn, the new Deadpool. It is quite an iconic look while still feeling quite familiar.
Yeah, it's got that slight grunginess to it because he's got like, I was about to say messy hair. No, he kind of has it put back. It's weird. It's clean, but it's kind of not clean.
It's greasy, but kind of like
I think mainly because of the character, because we know what he's been through. We know what's underneath that makeup.
You watch like 20 seconds of him dyeing his own hair.
Yeah, which is in the trailer and stuff.
And you also watch a couple scenes in that film. He's putting his makeup on. There's the bit where he's like doing it in the his job.
It actually like changes because of he's like done it himself, and then when he gets to the studio, they've done it better.
Yeah.
So like one of his things is like all the way the blue bits is down his face.
Yeah.
And then when he's back in the studio, they've like perfected it.
Yeah. So it's interesting in that. I don't know whether there's anything to read into. Probably not.
No.
But it's an interesting look.
Yeah.
There's a bit where he's wearing a green shirt, and I was like, oh, okay, so we're doing the Heath Ledger kind of thing. I think their looks are quite similar, with the exception of, I want to say Heath Ledger has a long coat at some point in the film. He's got like, or on the posters, he's got like
Heath Ledger's got the long purple coat.
Yeah. And then he's got a purple waistcoat and green shirt.
Which I remember I wrote down The Shining, because he's got the hexagonal pattern, and you were like, nah.
I personally don't see it.
Yeah.
I haven't seen much in Christopher Nolan films as well, where he references other films. He's very much in himself, and he's a world builder. So I think it would be slightly
it wouldn't be him to kind of reference
slightly detached to be like, oh, I'm going to put The Shining. Plus everyone puts The Shining carpet in one way or another. Toy Story has the Shining.
Goddamn Toy Story.
So it's like, I think Christopher Nolan did a good job at not making too many references.
He truly made that Joker unique.
Yeah.
Like every part of it. It was just so fresh. Oh god, I just remembered a point that I wrote down when we watched The Dark Knight. People's reactions to before they saw the film about the Joker specifically, people hated, despised that Heath Ledger was going to play him, and then when they saw it, they went like, right, and then obviously the movie comes out
and they loved it.
Yeah.
Yep.
With this Joker,
if only the new Hellboy was like that. Looked great.
The first picture, which felt like it came 5 years ago,
with
just Ron Perlman without his like shirt on, it was awesome.
Oh, I was thinking more David Harbour.
No. Like, literally, like it was probably like a year ago, or maybe 2 years ago. But they released a picture of Hellboy, and I remember being like, "This is going to be amazing."
Yeah.
And then the movie,
and then the film happened.
The film happened, and we'll get onto that another day. But no, what was I saying? Heath Ledger's people didn't like. This one, I feel that a lot of people were a bit like, like once they saw him in the makeup,
a lot more receptive. I think the thing with this one is it was kind of similar to Heath Ledger's one.
It was, while still the makeup was quite similar to that mask he wears in the beginning. Cesar Romero mask.
Literally, I saw it with a friend, and they turned to me halfway through the new Joker and were like, "Oh, is that supposed to be the same mask as in Dark Knight?" I'm like, "No, but it is a bit of a
homage.
Yeah.
Right, my love.
Dialogue wise, how do you feel they compare? Because I personally prefer Heath Ledger's dialogue in it.
He's
Captivating. He's
performance. B, the writing's just better in The Dark Knight,
excellent.
man.
The bank scene, the intro.
Yes.
He's
also, so as in like not just what he says, like what he does as well.
Just everything.
Yeah, he plans, man.
Yeah, I don't want to shit on Joaquin Phoenix.
No,
but I must say, Heath Ledger's Joker is that
better.
they're close, but I just love. I think a Joker film works slightly better when it's not relying purely on the Joker.
Yeah,
because the Joker only works when there's some form of resistance.
I just think ideologically, I feel like I'm really crapping on Joaquin Phoenix's Joker. Like, no, at the end of the day, The Dark Knight does so much.
Yeah,
the Joker does so much. Even when he's not on screen, his presence is felt throughout because of the videos he sends in, the dead bodies they find.
Yeah,
it's a constant threat. He's just clever, and Joaquin Phoenix is one. I shouldn't say Joaquin. I should just say Arthur Fleck. Arthur Fleck, the character, which I should be saying.
Or is it Arthur Wayne?
Arthur Wayne. But we're not going to talk about that. We'll skip over that because they basically said this is it, and they went, no, it's not this.
No, it's not this. Pull that back.
Arthur Fleck. He's just a guy with mental health issues.
Yeah,
who just goes for a lot of
There's
stuff.
A little bit of a lack of substance to the character, other than the kind of like mental health things.
Yeah.
Which
The only interesting thing is actually that point where it's like you could be related to Thomas Wayne, and technically could be.
I'm so glad that I wanted him to confirm that he wasn't, but I guess
I'm glad they didn't, and now I'm almost at a point where I'm like, maybe they should have done this half brother storyline,
like an offcut.
Yeah, like, not go full hog, but maybe they should have leaned into like maybe he was actually this abandoned child and gone down this kind of like weird Thomas Eliot route, like with Hush, you know.
Yeah,
you took everything from me. I don't think the Joker would ever bring it up, but as an audience member, you'd always know that the Joker is related
they
to
are half brothers. Yeah.
It's the only thing I don't think they have done. Or maybe there is. Write in the comments if there's a comic book where like the Joker is Batman's brother or his dad or his uncle.
Yeah,
go on, Jacob, do
mom, it. If we went off, Flashpoint.
Flashpoint,
yeah, where Thomas Wayne becomes.
Give me a female Joker.
That kick-ass Batman.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Couldn't imagine this guy as Flashpoint Batman dad.
No. I don't know who the actor is.
It was originally meant to be Alec Baldwin, from my understanding.
Really?
And then the day after it was revealed Alec Baldwin was in the movie, he went, no, I'm not. It was, and everyone had that gif of Grandpa Simpson going through the revolving door and back out the revolving door. Is there anything else you want to say about comparing them? I think we've got a bunch of. I think we've covered Joker. Even though we finished talking about the movie, we've even done more in the movie.
Yeah,
there's so much.
Last thing I would kind of say, comparison-wise, is Heath Ledger's Joker's rage is dealt out better for me. Arthur Fleck is like beaten down, trodden on, and then it erupts at the end. There's like a gradual kind of crescendo with Heath Ledger for me.
For me, there's. See, even though you said bursts, because there's little bits of rage.
Yeah,
but
that's what I mean.
Arthur Fleck, there's bursts, and at the end he bursts into the Joker.
Yeah.
While this one, you put it in perfect words, the crescendo.
Yeah.
Because in each scene, there's that crescendo of rage,
and also like,
look at me.
He becomes more what he says he is towards the end of the film. Because at the beginning, Heath Ledger, there's obviously the bits where where they're like, oh, you're crazy, man, and he's like,
oh, I'm not. He's actually, and then, again, it's the nuances, man.
Yeah.
Like someone says that he's crazy, and if you like pay attention,
he changes a little bit.
He gets offended by it.
Yeah,
and you're like, oh,
and that excellent pencil trick, obviously with parallels to the crow and stuff like that. But I think certainly with the Joker, Heath Ledger's one, it does change. There's a tonal shift slowly and gradually throughout the film. I think it just works excellently to the point where he's hanging upside down off the side of a building,
and the camera turns,
and you've got that sweet ass camera turn.
He's still on top of the Batman.
It's brilliant filmmaking. He's winning. There's obviously the monologues and the kind of like speeches that Heath Ledger's Joker goes on.
He's manipulative. He gets under every character's skin.
Yeah.
Without fail.
Yeah. And they don't do an origin. He's introduced and he's there.
Just
I
that
think
in this world.
the biggest origin you get is at the beginning, the end of
Batman Begins.
He's like, there's a guy. Oh, he's calling himself the Joker.
Joker, and you get to toss the turn card, and you're like, oh my god, the guy did Joker.
It's so cool.
The only thing. All right, well, I'll do my final note because I think we've pretty much covered everything. Also, I don't want this podcast to be 6 hours long. We discussed, and this kind of ties into Arthur Fleck. The Joker has the big bit with Harvey Dent where he goes, I'm a dog chasing cars. And he basically says, do I look like a guy with a plan? And rewatching it and discussing it with you.
He does.
He does. He's planned everything in that movie.
Joker is it's like he's telling, like I said, he's telling you what he is, but he doesn't fully embody that until slightly later on in the film.
Yeah. I feel that in that scene, most people walked away saying like, oh yeah, he is an agent of chaos. Like, no, you just got manipulated.
No, he literally rigs that hospital with explosives.
Yeah.
He breaks into a bank. He strategically takes out each one of those henchmen as well. Right at
the beginning, he knows Gordon. He wants to be taken in. I think he might even know Gordon's alive, or if he doesn't know Gordon's alive, he knows that he has to be taken in and be put into prison.
The next cog to start turning.
Yeah.
The bank robbery at the beginning as well. Again, the henchmen get taken out. There's a cobweb of events that all go down perfectly, timed to the thing. He has the bloody bus crash through
and then perfectly aligned with the other
school buses.
The dude had a plan.
He had a plan.
Y'all just didn't see it. But we're woke. Me and Ben are pointing at a whole wall full of papers with red string
ribbons.
Right
He's excellent.
And again, that comes down, not just to the performance, the complexity of the writing.
Yeah.
And with
because it's done well. Regardless of whether he says he's got a plan or not, you don't give a crap. You're like, do you know what? Like you said, originally you watch it, you're like, yeah, he doesn't have a plan. That's crazy. Yeah. But then you watch it and you're like, no, he does have a plan. So he's just manipulating. Yeah. There's so many layers and different kind of directions that Heath Ledger's Joker can go. It's insane.
And you can hear it in our voices, ladies and gentlemen, the excitement of breaking down a movie and realizing it's buried treasure, mate.
Passion.
And passion, baby, passion. On the other hand, we have Arthur Fleck, who says, I'm not political.
He is.
Arguably, he is.
He's a voice for the thoughts of the film and the reception to the characters, in my opinion.
The main part of this is, he is crazy. He does kill people. He incites the incident. He doesn't want to incite the incident. But
it is self-defense, which is where I think the film tries to defend itself. It's like, oh, no, this just happened as a chain reaction. But he didn't mean to do it.
But here's a point. How does he view himself? We find out through Zazie Beetz' character, who I actually don't think they say her name in the movie, but according to the list, her name is Sophie Dumont. Don't think they actually say her name in the film because she's not real.
I imagine you see it on a letterbox,
maybe,
or a door or mail or something like that.
To be honest, aside from Arthur, Murray, and all the Batman characters we already know, no one gives a shit about their names. Penny Fleck. Zazie Beetz' character, Sophie, arguably, since she is a figment of his imagination,
partially,
and a delusion, if you will, can be argued that whatever she says is a reflection of Arthur Fleck's mental state, right?
It's a Tyler Durden.
Yes, Tyler Durden it perfectly.
Yeah.
And
that's
when
Fight Club reference.
don't do that.
People who don't know, there's a bit of exposition.
Jesus, we'll put notes in the bloody video. And when he looks at I think it's like the poster or the newspaper where he like imitates the clown faces in the trailer, she comes up behind him and she goes like, "Oh, I'm glad those three are dead. Like, there's a million more. And whoever shot those people is a hero."
It's a hero. Yeah. It's a conscience thing and self-justification through a subconscious kind of like delusion, like you said. He's almost like saying to himself, "Oh no, yeah, like." You did the right thing. Like,
which is not what I think.
Beyond the point of self-defense as well.
Yeah.
Because, I suppose it could be argued that he's a hero because he saved the lady on the train, but
he doesn't. But he doesn't do. He doesn't do it. He doesn't jump up to be a bit like stop protecting that lady or distract them.
He literally
they look at him He starts laughing. She was already uncomfortable, but she gets more uncomfortable and leaves.
Yeah.
And then they pick on him, and then it happens.
I definitely think you're right with kind of like Zazie Beetz' character.
Because in that sense, and again, it's just one of those things where you just have to consider what your character thinks, what your character does, and whether it plays into the themes of the movie. And I think Heath Ledger's Joker does that.
Yeah,
it's a perfect parallel.
Yeah.
And even when you break down the surface layer, it still makes sense. While with Arthur, the more and more you break it down, the more and more you realize. I don't think they kind of knew what they're doing with this character, but it has a good defense because he's crazy, it's a movie about the Joker, and you can do whatever you want.
Yeah,
which is fair. But I think personally, for me, I want something that's a bit more. Someone that sat down and thought, I'm gonna do something quite complex with this character.
Yeah. I think kind of closing note for me is the film is excellent. Go see it.
Mm-hmm. I will reiterate.
Even if you don't like
performance alone, worth the ticket.
Cinematography, good.
Yeah, music,
visuals, soundtrack is awesome. Yeah. It's so good.
My only issue is the script. Personally.
Yeah, there's bits like that, but I would say that this is kind of like personal opinion. Loads of people love this new film, and it's worth seeing it. I love it.
I think the discussion alone, because if you love it, fantastic. Yeah. If you don't love it, have a discussion, try and work out what parts didn't work for you and stuff.
And I think it is going to be divisive. It always was going to be divisive. Anything that deals with kind of like mental health, society,
violence,
politics, it is always going to be kind of like a topic for discussion.
Yeah.
And it is really interesting hearing thoughts and feelings and receive. Like I said to you, the first time I watched it, I found certain scenes really hard to watch. They made me uncomfortable.
To be mainstream and to be a movie that affects people in this way, because like I can give you some French extreme films where of course you're going to feel moved, but no one's going to go watch those.
Is it a Serbian movie or something?
Martyrs is one that's renowned for being like it hits you. But this is a movie everyone has access to see. Loads of people are seeing it because everyone kind of knows a Joker, or people love Joaquin Phoenix. There's so many avenues for people to watch this movie, and at the end of the day, all we want to do is discuss films, and I feel that's just what everyone else should do. So go see this movie, people.
Go see the film, and thank you for listening, I guess.
We've covered every single question. So
sweet, grand.
All right, we didn't think about the ending, did we? I think I'll end on the perfect note. Murray.